What if everything you've been taught about achieving your goals is quietly working against you? Not because the advice was wrong, but because it was incomplete. You've been told to push harder, to want more, to stay hungry. And on the surface, that sounds right. Ambition is good, drive is good, but somewhere in that relentless chase, something breaks. You feel it, that quiet tension behind your eyes, the exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix, the sense that no matter how much you do, it's never quite enough. Here is what almost no one tells you. The tightest grip is often the weakest one. The people who seem to move through life with effortless power, who attract opportunity, respect, and results without the desperation most people carry. They understand something ancient, something the Stoics knew thousands of years ago, something modern psychology is only now beginning to confirm. Relaxation is not the absence of ambition. It is the highest form of it. Look honestly at your life right now. How much of your energy is spent chasing? How much of your thinking is consumed by outcomes you don't yet have? By the job, the relationship, the status, the version of yourself you haven't become. Most people live in a permanent state of low-grade anxiety disguised as motivation. They believe the tension is necessary, that if they relax, even slightly, they will fall behind. So they tighten, they obsess, they refresh, recheck, recalculate. And slowly, without realizing it, they become a person defined entirely by what they lack. This is the trap, and almost everyone is in it. The human mind was not built for the modern world. It was built for survival. And in survival mode, the brain reads uncertainty as danger. So when your goals feel distant, your nervous system responds the same way it would to a physical threat. It contracts, it tenses, it activates. This is why most people react rather than respond. They are not making conscious choices. They are being driven by fear, wearing the costume of ambition. Think about this. When you are desperate for something, does it usually come to you? Or does that desperation seem to push it further away? You've seen it in others. The person who needs the job too badly stumbles in the interview. The person who needs the relationship too badly repels the very connection they want. This is not coincidence. It is psychology. Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire in the world, and yet he wrote in his private journal, a journal never meant to be published, about the discipline of remaining undisturbed. He called it apatheia, not apathy in the modern sense, not indifference, but a deep, grounded stillness that allowed him to act clearly without being consumed by outcome. He wrote that you have power over your mind, not outside events. And he understood that the moment you surrender your peace to external results, you have already lost something more valuable than whatever you were chasing. Epictetus, who began his life as a slave, taught that freedom is not found in circumstances. It is found in the relationship between your mind and those circumstances. He said that some things are within your control and some are not. And the entire art of living well is learning which is which, and releasing everything beyond that boundary. Pause for a moment and let that settle. Carl Jung observed that what you resist persists, and what you cling to controls you. When your identity becomes tangled with an outcome, when you need the result to feel whole, you create a psychological condition that works against you. Your focus narrows, your perception distorts. You begin to see every obstacle as a catastrophe and every delay as evidence that you are failing. In this state, you cannot think at your best. You cannot read a room, adapt to feedback, or recognize the unexpected opportunity standing right beside the one you were too anxious to notice. The trap is not failure. The trap is the tension that prevents you from performing at the level that would make failure unlikely. Here is the shift, and it is subtle, but it changes everything. Detachment is not the same as not caring. It is caring deeply about your effort while releasing your grip on the outcome. You prepare completely. You show up fully. You bring everything you have. And then, and this is the part most people skip, you let the result be what it will be. Not from weakness, not from laziness, but from the deep understanding that your peace is not contingent on the world arranging itself according to your preferences. This is not passive. This is the most sophisticated form of action there is. When you stop needing the outcome to validate you, something remarkable happens. You become less reactive and more deliberate, less desperate and more magnetic. The energy you were spending on anxiety gets redirected into presence, creativity, and genuine confidence. And people feel that. Opportunities respond to that. Imagine two people going into the same job interview. One is prepared well, but underneath that preparation is a quiet desperation. They need this. Their self-worth is on the line. That need leaks into their body language, into the slight edge in their voice, into the way they answer every question just a little too carefully. The other person has also prepared, but they walked in having already made peace with not getting it. They are simply there to have a real conversation and demonstrate who they are. That ease, that groundedness, it reads as confidence, as authority, as someone who doesn't need to impress because they already know their value. Who gets the position? Think about it in social pressure too. The person who constantly seeks approval unconsciously signals that their self-image depends on others. And people, sensing this, often pull away or take advantage. But the person who is genuinely comfortable with themselves, not arrogantly, but quietly, draws others towards them without effort. This is not manipulation. It is alignment. Seneca wrote that it is not that I am brave enough to face these things. It is that I have decided they will not disturb me. That decision, that prior decision made in the quiet of the mind before the storm arrives, is what separates the reactive life from the philosophical one. Socrates, facing execution, was reportedly the calmest person in the room, not because he did not value his life, but because he had long since decided that his peace would not be held hostage by forces outside himself. He understood something Aristotle would later formalize, that the virtuous life is not the comfortable life. It is the life lived in accordance with reason and inner integrity, regardless of the external circumstance. This is what it means to be truly free, not free from difficulty, but free within it. If this perspective resonates with you, consider subscribing. This channel exists for those who want to think more clearly, live more deliberately, and understand themselves more honestly. Now ask yourself this honestly. How much of your energy right now is tied to something you cannot control? How much of your mood depends on an outcome that hasn't happened yet? How many decisions have you made from a place of fear rather than genuine choice? Not to judge yourself, but to see clearly, because you cannot change what you refuse to look at. And most people are so busy running from these questions that they never stop long enough to answer them. Over time, this mindset compounds in a way that is almost unfair. The person who has mastered inner stillness makes better decisions because they are not clouded by anxiety. They build deeper relationships because people can sense they are not being used to fill an emotional void. They perform at a higher level because their energy is focused on execution rather than worry, and they recover faster from setbacks because their identity was never built on the shifting ground of outcome. This is not a shortcut. It is a slow, quiet superiority that accumulates over years while everyone else is burning out, trying to force the world into the shape they need it to be. The river does not force its way to the sea. It moves around what it cannot move through. It rests in valleys before descending again. It has no anxiety about arriving, and yet it always does. You are not meant to live in permanent tension. You are not meant to earn your peace only after success. Peace is not the reward at the end of the effort. It is the ground from which real effort grows. Relax, not into laziness, not into indifference, but into the deep, unshakable trust that who you are, when you are fully present, fully prepared, and fully at ease, is already enough to attract what belongs to you. The Stoics did not promise comfort. They promised something far more valuable. They promised that the calm person in the room is always the most powerful one. And now you know why.